Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education regular meeting for Monday, March 24th, 2025. Kristen, would you take roll call, please?
Tracy?
Here.
Eric is absent. Mark?
Here.
Sean?
Right here.
Brian?
Present.
Ann is absent. And Aaron.
Here. Verify that we have quorum present. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sean, would you read the school board mission statement?
Working together to ensure high levels of learning for all.
Thank you. Kristen, was public notice given?
Public notice was given to the requesting news media. The agenda was posted in school district buildings and on the district website.
Thank you. Are there any changes or revisions to the agenda?
Yes, please. Request that you move number 14, action research projects, after number 9 for the trip report. And then to also delete number 11, budget projections. Janet could not be here tonight.
Okay, request to move item number 14 to follow item 9, and also to remove item 11 from the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Mark, to approve the agenda with the adjustment of item 14 to follow item 9 and the removal of item 11. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have no request for public input on the published agenda, and that will move us into our first informational discussion item, which is a trip recap. We welcome Mr. Robert Coe.
All right. So we took 100 students to Chicago out of the band program. There's 109 in the program, so we took all but 9. And 24 adults. So we had great chaperones. We took a couple of paying parents along as well. And then our staff from Onalaska High School and a couple of the elementary schools to have a staff member on each bus. The trip was very successful. The week before, we had snow, but thankfully it kind of dumped on us here and not in Chicago. So we had really great weather the entire time we were there. So I put together a little bit of a presentation on what we did. So this is our early morning. Students had to be there at 5:15 a.m., and we were out by 6:45. We had some engine troubles, so 6:45. 6:15 is always my goal. And then we went to Madison, and we had a clinic at the university. This is their new concert hall at the university. And then our clinician is the University of Wisconsin Summer Music Camp coordinator, who's also the director of Edgewood College. So she did the clinic in the morning. The students got to play in this space. And then we did a performance at the Capitol, which it just happened that there was, I believe it was the Wisconsin Supreme Court that was in session. So we had to wait a little bit, but then performed for some of them as they were exiting. After that evening, we went to Medieval Times, so you can see when we introduced the trip to them, we said, well, we're looking into Medieval Times for Wednesday night, and the students all cheered. So I looked at Mr. Muner, and I said, I guess we have to go there now. But I would say it was one of the highlights for the students' trip and a great way to kick off kind of the events on our way to Chicago. You can see our group photo there. Our jazz bands both played at the Field Museum in the big atrium area, which is kind of neat. People kind of come and go, but you can hear the music pretty much into the different exhibits. So it's kind of a nice place to play. We did not break their sound volume of 88 decibels, so that was good to hear. Students then went to the aquarium, the Shed Aquarium, where they got to see the show and then kind of spend some time walking around there. A neat thing about our program, our drumline instructor is one of the biology professors at University of La Crosse. And so he had about 20 students following him around as he was talking about fish and wildlife. So he gave kind of a little mini lecture to them for 2 hours. He said most of them made it to the end. And then kind of a group picture in front of the Capitol. Another thing that we did this year, we were supposed to go see the Blue Man Group, but we found out in January that they were moving to Florida. So it's like, oh, geez, what do I do now? But luckily, the off-Broadway was Beetlejuice, which is a really fun and entertaining musical. And on top of that, we had a connection through Mr. McDonald with a friend who played in the pit on trombone. So he did a Zoom with us the Thursday before we left, and students could ask kind of what it's like to be a musician and be in a pit, and how do you get to that point, and what is it like making a living off of playing your instrument. And then when we went to see Beetlejuice, we afterwards kind of got a connection to do a Q&A with a few of the vocalists that were on Broadway. And so they got to ask some more questions. So it really got kind of a well-rounded experience of what the musical profession can be like. So we can go on to the next slide. Something Chicago is very well known for is their mob scene. And one thing that we've done, this is the third time I've done this tour for the Onalaska Band Program, is we do the Untouchable Tour, where they bring actors onto the bus and they kind of drive around Chicago and show all the different spots where things happened in Chicago and talk about the history of that. And they do it in character for what their character is, and then students can ask questions. It's just kind of a neat other side of Chicago that maybe families don't get to see very often because it's a different kind of tour. So if you're ever in Chicago, check them out, Untouchable Tour. We spent the afternoon then at Navy Pier. So students had lunch there. One of the things that we really tried this year was to provide an all-inclusive trip. There were no extra expenses. All meals were paid for, all three of them. Travel, hotel, all the activities. The only thing that they needed money for is if they wanted to buy something to bring home. So they had lunch on Navy Pier, and then we walked to the Wendella Architect Tour, and that's the next slide. So we couldn't do it on Saturday because it's very lucrative for them to be able to do their boat tours when they dyed the river green. But Friday before that was really, really nice, and the weather was awesome. You couldn't complain at what was it, 70 degrees, I think, as we're going on the river. One thing that I really like about Wendella is you get to see a side of Chicago that most people don't get to see on the river, and their tour guides are always really knowledgeable and really excited to share the history of Chicago with the people that are on the boat. So I don't think he took a breath. And I like to talk, but I think he could beat me out for talking the most. That evening, we went to Chicago 360, which I think is one of the best views in Chicago. Willis Tower is almost too tall, so you're in the clouds, but the 360 at dusk, so you can see the sunset, is really neat. And then they do this tilt where they tilt you over the side of the building, which I think the students really enjoyed that one. They were talking quite a bit about it. St. Patrick's Day Parade. You could probably find us on YouTube if you want. There is a video here, and I'm sure we can share it. You've all have access to this, and you can watch the video. But it's kind of a neat experience for the students because they stop the parade. The band turns and faces the cameras. The cameras, I warn the students, will be in your face. So try not to eye the camera down. I know one of our students was doing a stare down of their parent as the camera came by to them to see if they would notice it. So just kind of a neat experience. The crowd, it's hard to tell, but from the street, the crowd goes at least a block deep. So we're used to Oktoberfest where you're talking maybe 10, 15 people deep. This one's probably 100 people deep on the one side of the street. So it's just a really neat crowd. They love having bands there, so it's a really great experience for our students. Short. For the performer, it took us 30 minutes from start to finish when we did start, but the parade itself is about 2.5 hours long with all the different units. So it's just kind of neat to see when people ask me, how long is the parade? 30 minutes, and they're always surprised. So, well, that's our time, not the viewer's time. And then we got to see the Chicago Symphony. I was really excited about this. I am from Madison, so I've lived 3 hours away from Chicago my entire life, and I've never seen the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. We were supposed to see them back in 2018, and they went on strike the week before we went down there. And then when the conductor went on strike, we knew it wasn't going to happen. But you can see we tried to include every single musical opportunity that there is out there with orchestra. We have orchestra students. We had vocalists, so we did some vocal things. The neat thing about this concert was they did a piece that involved an entire chorus. So it was really neat to see how the chorus interacts with the orchestra. And some of the students were asking some really great questions. My favorite was, I know there's a delay, but why was the conductor so far ahead of the beat? And I said, well, that's a Viennese style of conducting, where the conductor conducts ahead of what the performer is playing. They actually play on the offbeat of the conductor. So just kind of some neat learning opportunities, and how the students were paying attention. What was it, day 4, after being up until 11 o'clock every single night. They marched in the morning, and then we're moving all the time, and then going to a concert at the Symphony Hall. So just some neat opportunities for them. And then here's a picture of us at the parade. On the parade day, it's one of my favorite pictures, with the whole group with the skyline in the background. Not as sunny as back in 2018, but certainly was great weather for us to march. And even though it was 60 degrees, it still feels like 90 inside of those uniforms and hats, so I'm sure they were still sweating. And then we finish up our day with the Science and Industry Museum, so they get that experience. We do the U-boat tour. I feel like every time I do that, there's something new that they talk about in that, or they find out in the history of capturing the U-boat. And then there's a picture of the river being dyed green. And then, of course, some of our chaperones, the directors that went there on the left with the river in the background. Our band program would not be as successful as it is, and I don't think any of the music programs at the high school, without our chaperones and our other staff that are there to support us, makes a huge difference for the students. And obviously, parents knowing that their kids are going to be safe when they're, for some of them, the first time they've been away from their house in a trip like this. So very thankful for all of those people that came along with us. I think that's it.
That's
Any
great.
questions?
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? As I was able to join the band on the trip, and you know, I think we sit here and we receive these trip reports, right? You know, or you know, requests to go on a trip, and then hear the results. But to be part of one, and for how well organized all of that was, you know, thank you for all of that. I took me a few days to recover from the trip, but it was a great experience, and I think the students really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it's fun when it all kind of fits together, and tried to keep them busy.
I'm impressed with all the opportunities that you found and you were able to follow through and take them to. It was like, and this, and we did this.
Yeah.
Like, it was so cool. Like, there was just so many opportunities that they might not otherwise get that you were able to give them on this trip, so it's very impressive.
It's a very cost-effective trip for us. I mean, it is close, but also because a lot of times, Mr. Moses, the choir director cohort of mine, and me, we do a lot of the planning ourselves, so we save a significant amount of cost by having us plan it versus a tour company, which is a significant savings for our families. So we can do more on our trips.
Yeah, I appreciate the work you put into planning that and making it happen.
Thank you.
Well, when you were at the Capitol, that was the same day that the WASP had their day at
Yes.
the Capitol. And so we did get to see you, Mr. Finko and I. That was great. Walking up to the Capitol, and there's the trailer and the truck and Aaron.
We may have double parked a couple of vehicles, but it's okay. No one ticketed us, so I think we're okay.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. Have a great night.
Okay, we'll move to a change in our agenda to item number 14, which is an action item. And we're going to hear from two staff members about research projects that they're involved in. I think first we'll have Kaylee.
Okay. My name is Kaylee Olson. I'm a third grade teacher over at Eagle Bluff. This is my second year teaching, and I, this fall, entered the Professional Studies and Education Master's Program over at UWL. Through this program, we are completing action research projects, and so I'm proposing my idea on studying the effect of daily mindfulness practices in the classroom and what they can play a role like to affect students' emotional regulation skills. Many of us know there's an increasing focus on the importance of SEL, or social emotional learning. SEL improves academic outcomes, students' well-being, it promotes positive behaviors and relationships. And as you know, student engagement, growth, and achievement is a current pillar of our focus for the district. We're working to integrate SEL to ensure achievement for all, and so I hope to enhance this by adding daily mindfulness practices in my classroom while looking at the impact that it has on my students' emotional regulation skills. Mindfulness is just being present in the moment, awareness to and attention to thoughts, feelings, and surroundings. Daily practices that would take place in my classroom with my students could be journaling, mindful breathing, sensory exercises, and practicing gratitude. This would take place like during snack, SEL time, or brain break, so it's not taking away from any current content time. Studies show that there's many benefits to mindfulness practices, but I'm focusing on the possible effects it could have on students' emotional regulation. Emotional regulation improves students' ability to manage their emotions, improve their focus, and ultimately enhance their learning while supporting a positive learning environment for others as well. I will use a variety of data collection tools, student self-assessments, as well as teacher rating scales to see what current emotional regulation strengths and weaknesses they may have before and after the implementation. They'll also complete some attitude scales to see which kind of practices they may prefer or use in their own emotional regulation. And they will also be reflecting pre and post using an open-ended kind of question forum to see what emotional regulation skills they have and strategies they may use. Through my action research, I hope to increase students' emotional regulation abilities and skills by implementing daily mindfulness practices and identify how this may help other teachers. Are there any questions?
I don't have a question, but I gotta say
Yeah.
that I was really excited to see like what you're planning on doing, because there is so much evidence and data out there to support like the project that you're doing. And it would be really
Yeah.
cool. I mean, obviously this is like your specific project, but like
Yeah.
how those kids do like as time progresses after experiencing that, you know? So
Yes.
I'm really excited, and I hope that whatever you learn, you know, we can maybe even implement, you know,
Thank
depending
you.
on how it turns out. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Typically take these separately.
Yeah, I think so. Todd, Roger and I had a chance to review. Did you want to say anything?
No, I appreciate the connection of our SEL focus, and I'm looking forward to seeing not only the gains that they make in those skills, but to see if that really does play out in our academic accomplishments too. So to see if we can tie it all the way across what we're trying to do with kids in the classroom. So, yeah, very excited about that.
This is on for board approval.
I'll make a motion to approve her proposal of the effect of daily mindfulness practices on emotional regulation as she outlined.
Second.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by Sean, to approve the action research project for Kaylee Olson as detailed by Kaylee and outlined in enclosure 14 Olson. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kaylee, good luck with your research project. And now we have Abby Voss, an elementary school teacher at Northern Hills.
Hi, I'm Abby Voss. So like you had already said, I'm currently a second-year teacher at Northern Hills. Last year I taught 4th grade, and this year I'm teaching 1st grade there. And just like Kaylee, I'm also in a master's program at UW-La Crosse for professional studies and education, and I'll graduate next December. Tonight I'll be sharing an overview of my action research project that I would like to implement into my classroom and use as my research. So this is my proposal. My project will look at the impact of student engagement through their involvement in the implementation of morning meeting in the classroom. I've chosen to focus my research on this topic because of morning meetings, and more specifically the engagement aspect of it, because in order to have an effective morning meeting, students need to be engaged. Morning meetings in the classroom provide students with a sense of belonging, community, and safety. Each day it's very important to start this in their classroom. and prepare for the learning that's to come, as we can see because we have it already implemented in our classroom schedule each morning. As the school year has gone on, I have noticed, though, a decrease in the engagement because of the routine of morning meeting. We always start with our greeting and then a share. We do some sort of community building game, and then we do a class morning message. And just with this routine, I've seen students kind of start to get disengaged as the year has gone on. So to help bring the engagement back, I'm proposing that my students will be the ones to actually plan and implement the morning meeting. So each day, my plan is to allow students to have a day that's to themselves to plan and lead their own morning meeting. We'll start by reviewing the class expectations and going over the class, what they need to be doing, and then the leader's expectations as well, and what that will look like for them. The students will be in charge of picking out the game, the greeting, and then the share. And then they'll also be in charge of encouraging students to, like, the reminders of the expectations and what's expected throughout, and then making decisions of who will go first, who starts the share, and then explaining the rules to the games. Each of these rules and each of the games and the greetings and shares will already have been some that we've done, so they're familiar with them, but now it's just including the aspect of the leadership, and they're doing this on their own. In order to understand the impacts of my research, I'll be giving students a pre-survey and then a post-survey with a variety of questions about morning meeting, and then how the implementation of them actually leading it felt to them. I'll also be observing my engagement throughout morning meeting, so I'll be collecting data each day on how students are responding to the student-led morning meeting versus what it looks like when I was the one implementing it. And then one last thing that I didn't have in my proposal, after talking with my facilitator at UWL, I also incorporated a third data point to minimize bias. So I'll be doing, prior to implementing the student-led morning meetings, I will be having small group discussions with the students just to ask just some open-ended questions about how they feel on morning meeting. And then I'll also be coming back to those questions after they have led morning meeting to see now how they feel and what difference it has had on them. The data that's collected from these surveys and then the discussions will only be used from students that have permission to be used in this research, and then names will not be used in my actual research paper. And then by doing this, I hope to have more student engagement in my morning meetings and have them feel a sense of leadership and pride in the classroom. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Again, I don't have any questions, but I'm also excited about your project. Sorry, I'm like geeking out over here. I'm just really excited because, you know, you're promoting leadership and responsibility and students teaching students, which I definitely think will also help build their confidence. I mean, I think of like when we never did anything like that, so by the time we were in high school and we were doing speech, it was like, oh my God. So like you're starting them off and building that confidence young, and I'm just really impressed, so that was a great project.
Any other questions for Abby?
Yeah, I'll just share that I had a chance to talk with Abby about this and help her kind of develop her question. And a lot of this idea came from what I know we've shared with you this year on our math professional development and how our students are developing their leadership in some of the daily practices in math. So we've seen really great results from that, hoping to apply that to a different part of the day and see how that's working out for them there as well. So really excited. And I would also just share that Kaylee and Abby are both students that did their PDS with us and student taught with us, and that we were able to retain with the district after them doing that work with us. So full circle.
Okay.
Well, I can make a motion to approve the action research project. What was it entitled? I apologize. The impact on student engagement through involvement in the implementation of morning meeting in the classroom, as she outlined.
Second.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by Sean, to approve the action research project as outlined by Abby Voss and detailed in an enclosure 14, Voss. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is also approved.
Thank
I think
you.
it's really awesome, like, number one, that, to see that continuing pattern of continuing education, at the graduate level, and then looking forward to hearing results, from your programs and your research. So thank you both very much. Thank you. And now we'll come back to item number 10, student representative and administrator reports. And it looks like we can start with Charlie.
Sure. I'll start off kind of representing Leah and Jason, but I believe Leah is doing her final preparations for Dancing with the O Club Stars. So if you're looking for something to do tomorrow, it's quite the event if you haven't taken part in it, just bringing lots of different groups and people and work together. And I can assure you over the last month and probably 2 months, they've been getting things ready to go to hopefully put on a good show for everyone tomorrow night. On the activity side of things are continuing to start in terms of thinking of the spring season. A few more sports started today officially with some softball and baseball, and track and field is already going. Our Quiz Bowl team, I think, hosts their home competition this Saturday. And even last weekend, Cabaret kind of show choir wrapped up their season over the weekend as well. Some great performances as things ending and other things are starting. One thing I would like to mention, as part of our conversation that kind of started in our guiding coalition that began in biology class with Miss Simon. Miss Simon was looking for a way to collect some data just to kind of work with data to kind of see how to break it down, what trends people are seeing, so on and so forth. And part of her topic was students' uses of their cell phone and their devices. And again, it was a willing thing that students were wanting to take part in. So over a week's time, they gathered data, they kind of broke it down. We kind of shared our results with our guiding coalition, and just to kind of keep the momentum going from some of the things that we've been seeing with our new cell phone policies and some of the momentum we're seeing with that in terms of trying to balancing that time during the school hours on what's appropriate and what's not. And I don't think at the end of it we saw anything outside the norm necessarily of students on their devices. And again, it wasn't time that necessarily like just listening to music, but really engaged with their devices. It was averaging into the 4 to 5 hours a day in terms of what you see with young people. That's pretty common. So as a guiding coalition, we thought, how can we capture that and share it, and which we've done before as well. We're preparing a message. I don't know if it went out today or will be soon. A couple of parents that we're probably familiar with, Tisha Marshik and Ryan McKelly, two professors at UWL, are going to put on a informational piece that captures significance of screen time, smartphone use, and how it's related to the mental and physical and social development of young people on April 7th at, I believe, from 6:30 to 7:30. So look for some information coming out that will be shared with families in the next few days, just to kind of continue that momentum again of trying to balance in that. And hopefully the goal is parents that are able to, and students, be able to take a couple of things away from that they can implement and help further, this healthy balance that we're trying to help our students with. So some great things that came out of biology, and then to our guiding coalition, and then into this event. So hoping that we get some good families there.
Yeah, really exciting to be able to see a couple of local experts, but also folks who are parents of students in the district as well, and have them lean into that and take part. So that's great.
Yeah, very lucky. I've heard them both on different occasions, and it should bring great stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie.
Yep.
Middle school.
So we'll start with the most recent and then go to the thing that happened a little about 2 weeks ago. So Ben and I just came today from our OMS art show, which is at the public library just down the road here from 5 till 7 today. So we're able to go and see all the art at the public library and then come here. So that's the most recent event, which happened today. For about 3 weeks now, we've been doing a tier 2 intervention for behavior called Reading and Recess Buddies, where we have about 10 kids walking up to Northern Hills to do some servant leadership and also practice what they're learning about self-control in their tier 2 intervention. Some students are going out and spending all their time out at recess, some are helping with lunchroom supervision, and a few others are going into the classrooms. I walked through a classroom today where one of our students was in a 2nd grade classroom, and they had just gone through a mini lesson, and she was walking around and giving feedback to each of the students on the different types of text, I believe was the mini lesson. And I had watched her just going around and speaking with each of the students on some of their answers, and I thought that that was a really cool thing to see. And in talking with her on the way back, she said, I want to be a teacher, but not for middle schoolers. She's a middle schooler herself, she's a 7th grader, but for younger students. So it's just fun to see students shine, and in an environment like that, we do have to redirect them sometimes and remind them that we're there to serve the elementary school students, but it's something we're really excited about, and we hope to take to 6th grade and 8th grade at the start of next year. Understanding that 6th graders had just left the elementary school, we'd work with much younger students than basically what would be their peers. And then finally, during conferences, I'd shared that we had some donations for meals. I just wanted to revisit that and share that we had 7 families that would not have signed up for conferences, sign up for conferences with the addition, like with a meal voucher being provided for them and their family. Our staff came through, and it was really cool to see the donations that our staff was willing to give to support some of our families coming to parent-teacher conferences, and we hope to grow it a little bit more next fall. And that's when we have we have increased participation in the fall typically, and we hope to be able to grow that program in the fall and develop a system to continue to do this, because if 7 families can sign up for conferences as a result of meals, we hope that we can have even increased participation in the future. And when you know more, you can do more, and we're excited to continue and grow that opportunity.
That's just awesome, like thinking outside the box, right? And I think the other, I'm just having like a reflection, like I keep seeing like this pattern of, putting older students in touch with younger students to develop leadership, right? Develop community. It's really impressive. I see that both from the high school and from the middle school. And obviously, a lot of collaboration at the elementary to make that happen too. It's really great. So, elementary.
I'll take that. So we are starting our spring session of Ames Web screening. So this is the screener that helps us determine which students may qualify for personal reading plans and what specifically to focus on in those plans. That's for grades K through 3. And the state forward testing window has been open, and so we are diving into forward testing as well in the coming weeks. Last week we had an early dismissal, which is a unique experience, but really I think that went really well. From all of our perspectives, the communication was great. People were flexible, and I just had a couple students that were there for a little extra time, but overall we thought it went really well. So congrats to everyone. I think that's not a small feat to do. So March 21st we recognized as World Down Syndrome Day, and to show awareness, students and staff wore mismatched socks. And so this idea was created because the chromosomes are shaped like socks, and people with Down syndrome have an extra chromosome. So people all over the world wear colorful, attractive, mismatched, or wild socks on World Down Syndrome Day to get noticed. On Ability also created t-shirts and for staff to order too. And we have lots of transition activities for fifth graders already beginning. Music instrument demonstrations and tryouts and testing are coming up in the next week or two. Our fifth graders are planning and preparing for their Eagle Bluff Environmental Learning Center trip. We finished a common fundraiser across our 3 schools, the Fill the Eagle fundraiser. So we'll hopefully getting that cost of the trip down. March Music Madness is happening. Our music teachers have been sharing a link for a couple of pieces each day, and the classes get to vote which they like better. We think there are 20 of those sessions throughout the month here. Yeah.
There's 20 slides currently.
Yes. And this year, there's a nice focus on world music, so the students are really getting a sampling of music outside of just the culture that we live in here. And at Perch, they're doing Mascot March Madness, so students are earning Rory tickets for expected behaviors, and then they vote on which mascot should move forward in a bracket to play in the mascot games at an all-school assembly next week. And at Eagle Bluff last week, our third graders did a new experience called it was a greenhouse experience put on by Grow Lacrosse, and this took place at TC, at Western Technical College, and so the students got to be involved in greenhouse operations and hydroponics and plant propagation, and it was a good springtime activity for students to learn. And then we also have a celebration coming up, assembly this Friday, to celebrate our fundraising efforts, and we're looking forward to playing some Minute to Win It games with the students and staff as well. And I'll turn it over to Liz.
We also got to have the Irish dancers from Amanda's Academy of Dance come on Monday, which was exciting. So our whole school got to see that, and it was really a connection to our first and second graders studied some Irish music and dance for their concert in January. So they were really excited to come have them show them what it looks like from semi-professional Irish dancers. So it was exciting for them to make that connection. And then I'll just echo what Jana said. It's been really delightful having the middle schoolers coming over to help support our students. One of our third graders was really sad when his buddy left today at lunch and wanted to know where he went. So he got to buddy with me afterwards, which wasn't as exciting for him. But it's really been nice to see, for me to see the growth of some of the students from where they were as elementary students to where they are now as leaders. And even one of them today that asked to come and connect with a student that when he was at Northern Hills, he used to help support in pre-K, who's a first grader now, and he wanted to check up and see how he's doing. So it's been really mutually beneficial for both. So I'm excited to see that grow from where it is right now.
Thank you. I think then we'll hear from Fran and Mark about the day at the Capitol.
I can start, I guess. Certainly jump in whenever you feel appropriate. It was my opportunity for the first time to go to the WASB Day at the Capitol. The idea was to get updated on legislative issues and meet with our legislators. So we got to meet with the staff of Steve Doyle, and we met with Brad Paff. Ultimately, that was really toward the end of the day. Started out with a little breakfast and then all kinds of things from the WASB, so their legislative people kind of giving us an update and cueing us in on how to approach the day with our meetings with the legislators. Then we had a legislative panel of 2 senators and 2 representatives representing both parties. That was very interesting, an interesting conversation. The WASB asked them a number of questions and got responses from each of them. Then what followed that, Fran?
Well, yeah, so in the morning, we had the panel. We listened to the panel. And if you look at the handout, well, first of all, if you look at the handout that Kristen sent around, it gives you the agenda of what we did that day. Mark already outlined it. So the morning was with the panel first, and then and then we listened to the budget director for the governor, Brian Pankey. But the representatives, it was interesting. I've been there before, and it was interesting. This was probably the first time that I've been there where they actually, on a lot of the issues, they were in agreement. Wouldn't you say?
They were.
They, other than vouchers, which seemed to be the, you know, the dividing factor for forever. You can see in the bullet points, they agreed that it was gonna take longer to complete the budget because of the issues that were at the Supreme Court, but that they all said lobby support more funding for special education because it crosses all Democratic and Republican districts. So something that we felt really good about coming away with, not knowing how much, like the governor's asking for 60% and the next 60% next year and 60% again the following year, hoping maybe to get 45% next year and 60 the second year of the biennium. But right now we get 26% reimbursed, and we transfer a lot of money from Fund 10 to Fund 27, like $4.2 million every year. So it's a lot of money. So that was good news. They also said that there would be a per pupil increase. Governor Evers wants $290 or $390 each of these 2 years. So instead of the 3 1/4, which was some prediction, $390 in year 1, and then an additional $390 in year 2, which would help us financially also. And then it was a kind of an odd question. It was, how do we get the legislators to trust public schools more? You remember that?
Yes, I
And
do.
And the answer was, invite us in, be more open. What the community says about you, that's what we understand about you. So the community's saying good things. In other words, if you control the message, perhaps you can control the outcome a little bit more. So I thought it was great. I thought the morning was probably the best of the ones that I saw in the past. And I don't know, did you want to talk about the budget director? You can see the points there. There's a lot of money in our state.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money,
I'm expecting to have more and more of a surplus in the next 2 years.
and it's
So-
sitting there,
Yeah.
right? It's sitting there.
So we're kind of hoping that they may let us use some more of that. You know, they're talking about currently a $4.3 billion surplus, and that would increase somewhere in the range of $1.85 billion each of the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
And plus the $2 billion in the rainy day fund, so they said they're gonna be sitting on over $8 billion. And so that's why Governor Evers says, well, why can't you spend some of that on schools, right? Why can't you go to that 60%? And he's also proposing to take the revenue limit ceiling from the 11,000, which just raised to 12,000 next year, and $12,700 in the second year of the biennium. And any of these things that happen would be good things for us. And Janet's not here tonight to talk about our budget story yet, or so far, but you're gonna see when she does talk about it that at this point right now, with what we need and what's proposed for us, not knowing what the new budget is gonna be, we're looking at a deficit. Now, it won't be that way at the end, and or hopefully it won't be that large if, you know, we'll have to make some decisions as a board, but in the meantime, there's needs, there's Act 20, there's additional strategic plan needs that we need to put into the budget, and that she'll talk about at our next meeting, but hopefully there's some good news that comes out of this.
yeah, there was a fair amount of bipartisan support for some of those things, which was really nice to see. One thing we talked about, well, we hung out most of the day with some of our area superintendents and board members, meeting together with them and our representatives. So kind of the conversation after a while evolved into referendum fatigue. So, you know, some of the data that we had was, you know, last year, there were 241 school districts that had operating referenda throughout the state, and every district in the last 5 years or in the next 4 years will have or did have an operating referendum. And it's essentially due to no increases just related to general inflationary costs that haven't been accounted for. And really that is for all districts in the state, large, small, rural, otherwise. Well, of course, talked about the statewide declining enrollment, pretty much everywhere. One of those questions to the legislative panel was related to recruiting and retention, right, Fran? So it was interesting to hear some of that. The governor's budget is looking at provisions to pay the student teachers that we have, since education is relatively expensive, and also creating more help for mentoring. Basically talking about valuing the profession and respecting that, and
Yeah, they made a point that every profession is hurting for good people. It's not just education. So what can we do across the board with that? And that's where the incentives, one of the things they are pushing for, and I saw it just went through the legislature in the last couple of days, where they want to take the penalty away from the waiting period. Are you familiar with that? You want to talk about that, or do you? You feel okay to talk about it?
Sure. From WRS, there is a 75-day waiting period where retirees cannot work for a district. So they were looking at waiving that or reducing it, as well as the option for currently rehired annuitants have to still maintain a part-time status. And they are looking to either reduce that or change that so that rehired annuitants can come back and work full-time in hard-to-fill positions.
So lots of good things, and just the last page of the handout that we had for you shows you what our asks were from Senator Path. Right now, there's $50 million to pay for Act 20 that's being held up because the Supreme Court is arguing about who should get control of the spending of the money, or watching over the spending of the money. Should it be the DPI or should it be the legislature? So they're fighting about that, and as soon as that's decided, they'll free up the money, hopefully. I mean, our proposed cost is gonna be around $900,000 to implement Act 20 K-8, right, pre-K-8. So it's a lot of money, and it could help with that. And then the voucher transparency bill. Our district this year, our district taxpayers this year pay an additional $1.226 million to pay for vouchers. And so we asked Senator Path to make that part of a bill where there's transparency on the tax reports. So when it says you pay this much for state, this much for federal, you pay this much for vouchers,
yeah.
right? And he had introduced that once before, and he was happy that we were asking for it again. So.
And the other part of the vouchers too was just to ask for a freeze in that, a pause in any more vouchers till things kind of settle out and really figure out exactly where we are.
But the final takeaway, I think, just for me to wrap up, is the last line on the second page. Even if the legislators' party is not in the majority, they still can share our stories with their colleagues to try to influence their thinking in terms of the need of some of the things that are being asked for. So it's good for us to share our stories. It's great that we have Nick's help now to help share our stories. Our newsletter, I mean, our strategic plan pillar too, right? Communication. So those are all good things, and maybe it'll help in the long run.
Should make sure that we add our local representatives' email addresses into our distribution for district.
You know, we used to have the local representatives come to visit the board meetings, and we haven't done that in years.
Yeah, that would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for attending and for the report
Sorry
out.
for being so long.
No, it's good. Very good. Middle school and high school building projects update. Charlie, start with you.
If you pull up the attachment, you can see there's been a lot of work, obviously, on the east end of our building, our tech ed areas. You know, the shapes of the classrooms and the workspaces are certainly taking form. You can see, I mean, there's certainly been a lot of concrete coming into our building, a lot of walls coming down, especially in our PE hallway, so lots of things getting set. In the southeast corridor there, and again, just continuing to pour the inlays of things that were taken out and kind of put back in some of the spaces in our tech ed area. You can take a look at our locker room space down our PE hallway. It's amazing how I can go down there any part of the day and the noise that's coming out of there, so there's certainly a lot of work happening in those spaces, and it's really opening up and looking great the times I am taking a look inside of there. In our receiving spaces, that's facing Wilson Street there, it's quite the space, and looking forward to having, right, a better receiving space than our front doors of Wilson Street with our semis backing up and doing the drop-offs. So that will be a welcome addition for sure. And just another kind of look from the front to the back of the tech ed areas, been able to walk through a few times, and just how it opens up in the space, you know, outside the classroom is really going to be something for what students can do, and just the overall feel of that space is going to be really, really nice. So lots of work, lots of people in the building, which means lots of work is getting done, so.
Thank you. Ben?
Yeah. So the big push right now is trying to get the 8th grade pod and the allied pod ready. That's the southeast wing there. And since I last updated you, we finished getting the roof. We've got windows, and they're putting brick up on the sides. So there's some visible progress going on right now, which is really exciting. On the inside, they're almost done with a lot of the electrical and plumbing rough-ins and everything, and they're starting to frame out. It's mostly the concrete, but there's a few places where there's some smaller offices for our resource teachers, so they're framing those out, and we'll start drywalling that pretty soon. It's not a big section that needs drywall, and so continuing to push on that section is the biggest thing right now. I think I told you about the new band room, and you can see there's our old band room right there, and so that is being prepped for all the remodel. So the old band room will become the new choir room. And the next picture, the old choir room will become the new orchestra room. You can see here, there's some of the brick on the side. That's part of the overhang. And so the 8th grade section is upstairs, will come out a little further than the allied pod. So there'll be a little overhang, a little breezeway, walkway underneath with bike racks and benches and stuff. And so that's where that picture is taken. Same one right there as well. There's some of the behind the scenes stuff that gets covered up by walls when it's all said and done there. So they also poured the bases you can see for the lockers in the new 8th grade and allied pods right there. That's the concrete on the sides there. The work continues in the old gymnasium, which is going to be part of the new Boys and Girls Club section in there. They're continuing to remodel that. This is the part I was talking about where they framed out the offices for our resource teachers right there, and then they'll start drywall here shortly. That is the top of the stairs that goes down onto, from, on the far end of the building, not in the middle main staircase, but on the far end, going from the 8th grade pod down to the Allied pod. And it's just a picture of the roof. No leaks last weekend with the rain. Friday night, I believe it was raining into Saturday, and then over the weekend, so that's been an ongoing issue. So that's pretty much our update there.
Great. We'll look forward to that being a trend.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item 13, board policies. And Fran, you'll start with a presentation.
I will. Mark, Tracy, and I met last week for, what, 2.5 hours? Yeah.
Yeah.
And went over each of these policies. These policies were introduced in the fall, and the admin team has had a chance to go over them, make recommendations and so on. So we went through all the recommendations that came from those meetings. And so what this is you have a cheat sheet that'll walk you through each one, and then if you want to follow along on your computer, we're going to start with page 10 of the enclosure with policy number 164. And I'm just going to go down the numbers, and if anybody has questions or comments, the rationale for the recommendations are over on the right column, and the policies and so on, you can see revised, whether it's new or revised, and are we recommending and why, and so on, okay? A number of these you're just going to see has technical changes, which you'll see in 174 in the next policy, but this first one is about virtual meetings. And so if you scroll down, you can see that the language says if a board member may only attend closed session meetings are in person unless, and then there's some language that talks about under what the conditions would be. So that's what 1764 is. And mind you, this is first reading, so if you have questions, fine. If you don't have questions and you have them, the next time we meet, you can ask them at that time also, okay? So that's 164. Basically, you see it in the green, and it's about virtual participation. The second one is 174.1, and all it is a technical change, as you can see, from Department of Public Instruction to DPI. 2340, it's optional travel, optional foreign travel language. We used to have a language in 8640, but that policy was rescinded. So this is the language in there. You see some of the cleanup about co-curricular and extracurricular. But you can see what, on the second page where it's checked international field trips present and so on. They chose that as the option and not the second one that's in pink. Questions about that one? A little bit more at the bottom, more language. Looks like a little bit of cleanup too. 312004. Optional language on substitute onboarding and long-term substitutes. Only thing there is a technical correction. The paragraph in green is not being recommended for adoption because it's not checked. And then the pink comes out of there. Some of that language is, I believe, in handbook too, or earlier policies, right? Yeah. Okay. 312008. Optional procedural language on hiring coaches and advisors. Option 1 was chosen over the other ones above that, where the superintendent make a recommendation to the board for approval for hire. Okay, and then also in that paragraph, it showed, instead of it just being a member of the teaching staff. It could also be administrative staff, as you can see that addition there. 412008. Certification language added. It adds language related to certification and background checks, and there's some technical corrections in that policy, very short one. 5200 is optional excused absences. If you scroll down to that one, you can see there's 2 options that were proposed. We're only recommending the second one. And I think I explained that a little bit earlier, but if we check the severe weather conditions, every parent has the right to excuse their child for 10 days, basically without reason, right?
Correct.
And if we check the severe weather conditions, that would extend that number 10 beyond however many times they wanted to excuse. So we didn't think that should be in policy because they already are excused if they want to excuse their child because it's too cold or snowy or rainy or whatever. We just don't want it to be part of that 10, so we don't extend that 10 beyond, correct?
Well, I want to speak up because I disagree with that recommendation. Although I respect the rationale that was provided as far as being concerned that parents would possibly overuse that reason. The policy option is worded in the parent's reasonable judgment whether conditions are a danger to the health and welfare or safety of the student. And I respect that parents have 10 days to excuse their child from school without repercussion, but even though you say that that can be a reasonable, reason for a parent, as long as it fits in that 10 days, I don't think that it makes sense to, just because you say you will accept it, if we don't check that box, you're leaving the door open to not accept that as an option. So if you have a child, for example, who's sick all the time, who maybe use up their 10 days a year, and I recognize too that there is procedures in place to, take into consideration if people miss additional days outside of the allotted time frame. There is like a review process for that. But in my personal opinion, I feel like option A should be checked because it is under reasonable judgment and it's a danger to the health and welfare or safety of the student. Parents know best what their kids need. That's my personal opinion. Just leaving it out there. So, thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Like I said, first reading, so it's good to hear what people have to say. Anybody else on that one? Okay, 5330. Okay. 5330, administrative of drugs, and then the Narcan policy, antagonistic plan. So the recommendation, there's changes made in prescription, administration of prescription and non-prescription drugs. And there's also added general provision changes. And we are not recommending the opioid policy, opioid antagonistic plan for a number of reasons, a couple of which were that we have emergency response people who can get here, and we also, this recommendation came from, maybe you want to hit on that a little bit, Lori, the head nurse, when we looked into that at the time, right?
We've gone around with this decision a couple times, and the last time our Director of Nursing, Amanda Denault, checked with all of our emergency response people around, and for us to stock it and keep people trained in it did not seem to be, the emergency response time that they could get there and administer it would cover us, because of our location of where our schools are, that they could respond quicker than we would be able to, as far as making sure people who are trained can get to someone in order to administer that medication. So we had decided, I believe we decided that at the last time we reviewed this policy, but then it came up again in the revision to consider it, because maybe there are districts who are stocking it and keeping people trained.
So,
Does
do you
that
want me
matter?
to give my blurb
Sure.
now?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Before you go, Tracy, I have just a clarifying question.
Sure.
Is that is that to say that there may not be qualified trained personnel in each building?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, our nurses are not housed in every
Correct.
building, and so they'd have.
That's what I thought you were saying,
Yep.
but that's sort of the
Yeah,
clarification.
sorry, that wasn't clear. Yeah, for them to respond, it'd be just as quick for our emergency
Okay.
response to get there.
So do you have a number? How many times this has been used in the last year?
In our district, by our police or, I don't know. Do you know if it's been used? at
I don't
the
believe it has,
school?
not at the
I
high
don't
school.
think
It hasn't been
has.
used in my time.
I can remember one time, and this was pre-COVID, a while ago, that we used it at the high school.
Yeah, I can think of,
But I don't even know if we administered it. I don't think we
I
did.
can't speak
I think-
if we did.
I think the
So
fire.
pre-COVID.
We had one time
Would be-
pre-COVID at OMS, and it was the resource officer that had
That did
administered
it,
it.
yeah. They carry the Narcan, all of the police officers do, firefighters, ambulance, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I will go then next. I disagree with that, and I feel that we need this policy, and I'm going to share why we need to start stocking Narcan in the schools again. So we'll start out by saying, like, what is Narcan? The generic is naloxone. So Narcan's a substance that can be injected, I apologize for the typo, or more commonly inhaled to help block the body's absorption of opioids. Examples: heroin, fentanyl, morphine, oxycodone, methadone, hydrocodone, codeine, hydromorphone, etc., thereby decreasing side effects. During an overdose, a person's breathing can be dangerously slowed or stopped, causing brain damage or death. Is it safe? Narcan will not harm someone if you give it to them and they are not overdosing on an opioid. It can be safely given to people of all ages, from infants to older adults. This includes adolescent or young adults who may unintentionally take an opioid. As far as the concern, it does not require a prescription. Lay people can receive it. And we currently have staff in our schools that are able to administer medications. This product, literally, if you get the inhaled, is pinch the button. I mean, there's not a ton of training required on that, because again, you don't have to have a prescription for it. It doesn't require a medical degree or certification in order to administer it. One of the considerations that was provided as a reason was that the nurse felt that it had a short shelf life. Well, Narcan, the FDA initially extended the shelf life of Narcan nasal spray from 2 years to 3 years back in August of 2020, and then they further extended it to 4 years for products manufactured after January 17th, 2024. So I would disagree that 4 years is not really a short shelf life, especially with the life-saving, measures that it can provide. How long does it take to work? Narcan starts working 2 to 3 minutes after administration, and if the person isn't awake in 3 minutes, it's advised to give a second dose. Once it's administered, it lasts about 30 to 90 minutes. Now, the biggest issue: why is it important to have Narcan on hand in-house? Well, brain damage begins within 4 minutes of not having enough oxygen. They also call that hypoxia. The longer your brain lacks oxygen, the more likely you'll have permanent brain damage. Travel time for first responders to get on site and the time it takes for Narcan to kick in can and will easily exceed 4 minutes. How prevalent is the opioid overdose? I called 211 to get their opinion. There are Great Rivers 211. They provide resources to people for an assorted, number of reasons. I wanted to know, where's the best source to go for this kind of thing? And they said that all of our La Crosse County, Mayo, and Gunderson all work together. They have the La Crosse Community Foundation for the Opioid Crisis. They have an Alliance to Heal website, and they keep track of the statistics. So the 2024 annual report by the La Crosse County Overdose Fatality Review shows that 55 lives were lost in 2023. They state that the number of lives lost to drug overdose continues to increase in La Crosse County. Lives lost to overdose were most common in the age range of 24 to 64, but other ages were also affected. 73% of the people who lost their life to an overdose had permanent, stable housing. 4 out of 5 people had a high school education or higher. Only 18% of emergency calls related to a drug overdose in 2022 had a bystander that administered Narcan. Their personal goal is to decrease the number of incidents of overdose and increase the number of people who have Narcan on hand to react quicker. So finally, some additional thoughts. While doing research as well, there's a U.S. News article from 2023 that highlighted a couple of situations that occurred in Colorado. Now, I respectfully will state that this is not Colorado, right? We're Wisconsin, we're the Midwest, we're a small hometown, but things can happen anywhere, okay? In 2022 in Colorado Springs, a student fell unconscious after walking out of a bathroom at a high school in Pueblo, Colorado. Her friends had mentioned drugs, so the nurse acted fast and gave Narcan. She stated, emergency responders were just 4 minutes away, but still 4 minutes, if they are completely not breathing, it's 4 minutes too long. 45 miles away in Colorado Springs, high school officials did not have Narcan on hand when a 15-year-old student overdosed in class in December of 2021. Oh my God, I think I'm gonna start crying. I'm sorry. After snorting a fentanyl-laced pill, oh my God, okay, hold on. In a school bathroom. That student died. Colorado Springs subsequently joined Pueblo and dozens of other districts in the state in supplying middle and high schools with the life-saving medication, often known by one of its brand names, Narcan. More than 30 states have laws allowing schools or school employees to carry, store, or administer naloxone, Narcan, but concerns about being a bad school have fueled reluctances among some officials to stock it. We don't need to lose a student by choosing not to stock the life-saving medication Narcan. We need to be proactive, not reactive. Thank you.
All right.
Could I just add one more thing that I forgot? I pulled up some of my email communication with Amanda around this. Dr. Marr is our medical advisor, and she had reached out to him as well when we were trying to decide this, and his recommendation was that he did not feel it was necessary for the district to take on that responsibility of Narcan since the response times were so quick with our emergency response, so. But it's board's decision to
Well,
consider.
And just to be clear, as the other member of the policy committee, not in favor of including that policy.
I just feel like if it takes 2 to 3 minutes to start working and our response time is a few minutes, that's them getting to our building, getting in our building, finding whoever is affected, whether it be a student, a guest, a family member, et cetera. You know, the time, seconds, minutes count when the brain and lack of oxygen is involved.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay. Let's go on to 5430, Wisconsin Guaranteed Admissions Component Discussion. This one had to do with, our class rank and how it's determined. And you can see we base it on the, we base it on you can see it in the last paragraph. I'm not going to read it for you, okay?
The things added there are just to make sure that that information is available so students can qualify for certain things, including the University of Wisconsin Guaranteed Admission Program.
Thank you, Mark. Questions on that one? 5460. 5460, two things, adds the financial literacy requirement for statute. And then it also adds the GED option for students with disabilities. Okay. 5610. suspension and expulsion language. It adds some language in there related to exclusionary discipline for both regular ed and those with disabilities.
And allowing some more flexibility related to expulsion, an alternative avenue instead of directly to expulsion,
Okay.
which seems very reasonable and appropriate.
Okay. 561003, the new policy, and I think this is where Mark was heading. right?
Okay.
561003 is adding a policy for pre-expulsion conference, pre-expulsion ways to, Lori, you want to talk about that? Can you talk about that a little bit, or is that a Charlie thing, or you don't know about that one? Okay, so
more, yeah.
it's about having to be able to give a plan, work a plan with a student as a pre-expulsion alternative, right?
Oftentimes, I think not exactly, and I can't speak to this completely because there's something different that we do if the child has a disability. But it's giving, usually when our board considers expulsion, you put in a reinstatement plan, which allows the student to be able to get back into school and graduate. It's like having that plan first. So the plan is, if you don't follow this plan, the board could go to expulsion or will go to expulsion, but it's not built into the expulsion plan. It's a pre-expulsion conference where you put together a plan that says, here are the things you need to do so that we don't go to expulsion. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Makes sense.
5771. Realigns language to fit section title is moved a paragraph up and deleted where it's currently is now in the policy. Also adds the option to use SRO in searches and added available administrator, so it's not just one, the principal, it could be other administrators. Okay. So we'll move some language. 6423, use of credit cards. Basically, the purpose of 6423 is so that it clarifies that there shouldn't be any personal gain for use of credit cards when doing district business. Next one, 754005, assistive technologies is new. We talked about this one because we didn't really understand what the green paragraph was until Lori helped clarify that, but the new language, it addresses external communication and recording devices, and that we need to shut them off when they're in schools. We're not recording things that happen in school. Right? Did you want to say anything? No? Good?
No, it was kind of a timely policy because we've had some requests, and we do have a couple students that have these type of devices, which is really a benefit for the family because it's a GPS monitoring for a student that maybe can't communicate and, for example, might elope or leave school grounds, or when they're with the family, might leave the supervision of the family. So we support that, but they also have a recording feature on them or a communication feature where the one company that we've worked with has been very upfront with the parents saying schools won't allow you to keep that feature active during the school day because it would record other students with disabilities in the classroom. And so our families have been good about honoring that and signing. They even have an agreement that we've had them sign. So.
Thank you. 7544, it's a social media revision, requires parental permission when the student's identified in a publication or post. And it also prohibits employees for private communication with individual students. Uh, 8395, student mental health services, adds language to include virtual services and to stipulate the requirement to provide free and appropriate education for students with IEPs. $8,500, it's a revision to the food or school nutrition services now. You see some technical changes there. Includes enhanced language. This was brought to you not too long ago, but now it has some new language, even still. References vending machines. We changed that so that it has the right policies, 8510 and 8550. Has responsibilities to report annually to the board for our compliance with accommodations, and has grievance procedures for disability meal modifications for students with disabilities. So if they ask for it and they don't get it, they have a means to grieve. Questions there? 8510 is wellness. Clarifies the reasons for a wellness committee and its purpose. Non-discrimination policies required. And then there's some technical changes on 8510. 8531. I can talk faster than I can scroll. Anybody pay attention? 8510. 8531, I'm sorry. Option 1 was recommended, not, option 1 changes are recommended. What it says. New language about student identified as homeless foster child. And then the non-discrimination statement. 8550 includes, again, the Department of Ag non-discrimination statement and some technical changes required. 8600 is transportation. It adds language that was previously in 8680. Vehicles for transporting students. So we brought some language over. And then there's some technical changes. 8640. Let's see. 8640. Yeah, we don't have 8601 in there.
We got rid of it.
We got rid of it, didn't we? Yeah. Yeah. 8660. Transportation private vehicle for district-sponsored activities. It basically says they're expected to use district transportation as it's provided for district trips, and clarifies when private vehicles can be used. I'm sorry, 8640, right? We said 8680. Some of it had been moved to 8600. Advisory reference on school district-owned buses. Deals with contracts. And then the last few are 3430 has to do with professional leaves for professional staff, and 4430 is leaves for support staff. And Sonia, do you want to talk about why we did those?
This one that we, with the change in personal days, we had removed incentive days. So after this year, that is no longer an option for staff. And then the other one is two other changes. We wanted to make sure they were equal. One of them is professional and one is support staff. And the support staff didn't have the child rearing leave. That was just a mistake that it should be there, that we've always offered that to our support staff as well. And then clarified the language on the unpaid leave, what that looks like and how that's, the board approves that versus just kind of listing out the questions, so.
Okay, and then the last one is a technical excellence higher education scholarship. Clarifies that to qualify that, you have to spend 4 semesters in our school district in your junior and senior years. Those are the first readings of these policies. Questions or comments? Other than what we already have.
We had a great meeting. It was long, there's a lot of stuff to go through. Lots of just technical corrections. Really appreciate all the input from all of the staff and administration who have looked at those that pertain to them.
And I received a call from Neola on Friday saying the next batch is ready to start. Boom! 2 weeks, if you pass whatever you pass here, then we'll jump right back in again.
A lot of work goes into that, from a committee standpoint and from an administration standpoint, so.
There's not always a lot of discussion between first and second reading, so I would just like to again reiterate that I hope that the 2 proposals or alternatives that I proposed tonight are taken into serious consideration. That's all.
Appreciate that, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to group health and dental insurance. Sonia, you have that?
Yeah, so this is the time of year we review our health insurance and our dental insurance for the upcoming plan year. Our plan year runs July 1st through June 30th. In regards to the health insurance, we continue to offer 2 plans to our staff, an HMO, which is a lower deductible plan, and then a high deductible with a health savings account. We worked with our insurance task force, which includes a number of employees, as well as our insurance broker, USI, to review our claims, as well as manage our rate caps that we have and offer a health insurance plan that is both manageable and sustainable for both employees and the district, as well as competitive. So we are recommending staying with Quartz this year. Our premium increase on the HMO is an increase of 2.75%, which is actually lower than what the standard cost of health across the United States is. So it's a very favorable increase. And then the high deductible health plan, since it's newer and we have less employees on that, it does have a lower premium amount increase of 0.775. We do have requests for the board to make a plan change in that the IRS does have limitations on what the minimum deductibles are to have a qualified high deductible health plan. So our deductibles just for the high deductible health plan would be increasing from $3,200 to $3,300 for single, $6,400 from single to $6,600 for family. Questions on the health insurance before I mention the dental? The dental, we have always been with Delta Dental since I've been here. What we are asking the board to consider is moving to a self-insured model. This won't, our staff won't see any change outside the fact that they'll get new insurance cards, but everything we'll handle from a claims perspective will be sent to the district, and we'll manage those claims and pay the insurance directly. So it is a reduction in the administrative costs. We still don't see individual claims, but more of it's just one group invoice, kind of think of it from that perspective. And so it saves the district quite a bit of money to do that in terms of bringing it in-house. The self-insurance for a dental plan is very low risk because there are caps on our dental insurance already. So the maximum insurance will pay for one person is $1,000. So we know what the maximum will always be. And so that's why we're taking on the self-insurance for the dental. If we didn't do this and stayed with Delta Dental, them managing the claims, they were recommending a 7% increase. So we knew that bringing it in-house, we could save that administrative cost and not put that back on the burden of the employees. So we're recommending only a 2% increase with that.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Sonia? This is on for board approval.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the group health and dental insurance as outlined by Sonia.
Second.
Motion by Sean, seconded by Tracy to approve the recommendation of the insurance task force to continue a group health plan with Quartz with a 2.75% premium increase for the HMO plan, a 0.775% premium increase for the high deductible plan, and a movement to self-insurance dental plan with Delta Dental with a 2% premium increase for 2025-26. It's detailed by Sonia and outlined in enclosure 15 insurance. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Are there any requests to remove items from the personnel report for separate consideration? Okay. Sonia?
We are bringing one new teacher to the board for consideration for the next school year. Blake Doyle is a French teacher. He is actually over in France right now and is coming back. He's been teaching over there for the last 2 years. Previous to that, he was in Nebraska. So we welcome Blake to our new staff. We are also asking for the board for creation of a position of a special ed paraprofessional at the middle school to help out with students there to the end of the school year. An additional co-curricular contract for the middle school, and 2 resignation notifications.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report as outlined by Sonia.
Second.
Motion by Sean, seconded by Mark to approve the personnel report as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. Our consent agenda.
I will move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Item 17.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Brian to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. That, we have no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Tracy to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.